Good day. My name is Peter Thomas, and I'm here today to share some concepts with you around the process of visual mapping. So the question is, what in fact is visual mapping? And we need to explain that. And really, visual mapping is just saying, taking ideas and displaying them onto boards so that people can work with those ideas. And the process that we employ for doing that, we call Participlan, which is an abbreviation for participative planning. And I am a facilitator who in fact facilitates workshops using the process. Now the term facilitator obviously also needs to be explained. It just means someone who manages the discussion and keeps the process flowing and keeps the conversation going. So what it really means is for all of us as facilitators who do facilitate using the process, we have to have experience, and typically the experience should be across as many industries as possible, and we do have. From financial services to mining to industrial, we have experience in that. So what flows from that, of course, is the question, why should we even use Participlan? And the biggest plus of Participlan is that it's a process that engages and keeps the audience involved. The other big thing that the process does is it saves up to 50% of meeting time. The saving of meeting time is because there's no repetition. It keeps the whole process focused. Everyone is focused on the discussion that has to take place. And if we can do that effectively, what we end up with is better decisions with buy-in by the group. So what do we mean by engagement? Well, engagement really means that every person who is in a discussion should be able to express their views. And we well know that if you've got too many people, it takes too long to have everyone express their views. So how do we do that? Well, what we do is we give each person a pad and a pen. And how the process works is we ask a question and the delegates respond to the question by writing their answers onto stationery. What we call that is silent generation of ideas, because each person is now thinking about the issue, contemplating it, coming up with their thoughts, and then writing those thoughts down. And that's the critical thing that gives you that large range of input. It gives you the divergent thinking that you're looking for out of a group. Once that divergent thinking has taken place, the cards are given to me as the facilitator. And together with the group, we cluster those ideas onto the boards. Having got those ideas on the board, now we're able to debate the issues. We're able to now come to conclusions. We're able to prioritize those issues. We're able to vote and say those are the actions or decisions we've got to take flowing out of that discussion. Having spoken about Participlan in the previous clip, it's quite obvious that what we are trying to achieve is to get this process to be much more acceptable to larger and broader groups of people. So the challenge is how to make the whole process much more do-it-yourself as a type of process. And how do we help people, more and more people, have an experience of the power of this process? And that's what really challenged us. So how do we do this? Well, with a lot of thought and consideration, we decided the ideal way of doing this is creating what we call a thought generator. Now, what is a thought generator? A thought generator essentially is a portable wall, but it's a portable wall that has templates on it that guide the thinking. So what is the role of the thought generator? Well, it arose because of the pressure that we have experienced in facilitating workshops with middle management. Middle management are under huge pressure. They're experiencing massive pressure from the top down, where the executives or the board are saying, get on with this initiative. So they're struggling with initiative overload. And at the same time, because of this time pressure, they don't have enough time to develop and empower their staff. And so what's happening is their staff are coming through and saying, please help us with this. They're constantly being interrupted. So middle management really are the ham in the sandwich. They just don't have the time to allocate to thinking about issues. They don't have free time to apply to issues that develop. And it's partly because they haven't had the time to develop and empower their staff. So that becomes a key issue. For example, let's assume that we as a business are starting to experience a deterioration in customer service. So customer service is starting to slip. The manager has now got a couple of choices. The manager can either say, I'm going to have to set aside time and solve this problem, or the manager can say to himself, who are the best 2 or 3 people who could help me find a solution in that area? And that's really what we're saying the thought generator should do. Start to give some of the work and delegate it down into the organization and let them start tackling those issues. So now, why the small team? Why should we take those 2 or 3 people and start allocating the responsibility to them? Well, the reasons are, firstly, it engages the staff. It gets them involved in being part of the business. And secondly, what it does is it frees up management time so that management can now tackle some of the other more strategic and important issues of the business. But very importantly, it empowers the staff because now they feel part of the business, solving the problem. It's an exciting opportunity to get engaged with the business. Having solved the problem, of course, and now having identified what the cause of the problem is and how to actually address it, now the issue is they've now got to present this idea. So now they have the opportunity to come back to their manager and say, these are the thoughts we've had and this is how we think we can tackle it. And the beauty of that is that the manager now can listen to what they're saying and add his input or reject some of their input, but he has total control over the situation. But what he's effectively done is allocated the thinking to someone else to do all the hard work. So in this example, let's assume that as a team with the manager, we've come up with an acceptable solution. The whole idea behind the thought generator now is simply take that device and present the entire concept to the executive so that what we can now do is accept that solution, find some actions, and approve the next step. So now we need a process. We need to be clear about what we're trying to achieve. And really the process is, firstly, to brief that small team. You can't just say to them, go and solve the problem. You have to give them a briefing. And part of the briefing is selecting some form of discussion template, like a gap analysis, like a process mapping, whatever it is. Pick the template, guide them through how the template would work, and then allocate the thought generator, tell them to go into the canteen or the cafeteria or somewhere and tackle the problem and come back in 2 days' time and present. Now, of course, what we want is we want a record of these discussions and the conclusions that we've come to. In other words, we need to be able to report on the process. And because every step of the process has been unfolding through a visual mapping display, it's simply a case of taking a photograph of the display and then capturing that information into one of the computer programs that we're able to annotate, things like PowerPoint or Word, or even onto Mind Manager, and put the thoughts and ideas into a more easily understood report that can be distributed. For more information, contact Peter Thomas. Telephone number 082 558 2817. Email address petert@participlan.co.za. All of this information is available on our website, www.participlan.co.za.